Welcome to Coach's Corner, Cav fans. Thanks for joining me on this Monday afternoon. The weather is pretty good today, but it sounds like it's going to get really cold here the next few weeks. But anyway, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Anna game and then the Hopewell Loudon game, which we've never played, coming up Friday at Walpaw. And then I'm going to talk about, I know I said I was going to talk about the long snapping, but unfortunately Bennett got hurt last week, so we didn't get the film that we were going to hope to get on Saturday morning after films. So I do have a little bit, but I'm gonna show that next week when I can really Mike and I can really do it right and do it justice. So we'll come back to that. But I am going to talk about a few other scout team guys, kind of like last week, some of the big guys that have been really good scout teamers this year. So the Anna game. So hats off to Anna on their season with a bunch of young guys. I think they had 5 or 6, maybe 7 sophomores starting. Coach Marino, Nick, does a really good job of with his squad and making it difficult to play them with new things each time you play them. And defensively, they do a lot of good things with blitzes and stunts, and their secondary really disguises all their coverages, and so Nick's done a really good job at Anna, and so they're going to be a tough team these next couple of years with all those young guys. But the score was 14-12, and just a really interesting game. You know, when there's not that much scoring, you might think it's kind of boring, but a lot of things happened in that game. A lot of really proud of our guys with some of the things that happened during the game that really helped us win this game. The score was 14-12, so you think, okay, why'd they only have 12, and how did we get 14 when we only scored 1 touchdown? So we had two field goals. So I'm going to talk a little bit about special teams. So we had 2 field goals, which is obviously 6 of those points. Our kickoff team was great. I don't think they started right at the 20 almost every time we kicked off, which was, I guess, 1, 2, 3, 4 on our 4 or 5 kickoffs. So the kickoff team was great. Our punt team was really good. We punted one down. We punted one down inside the 10 one time, and Koosh did a good job, and Alex Layfeld came in and took Bennett's place in the second half and had 3 or 4 punts in the second half that he got it back there like he should. So kudos to him because he practices it every day along with Bennett. So Bennett has coached him up over the years on how to do that, and so that was awesome. When they scored their 2 touchdowns, they went for 2 both times, and we stopped both of those. And we also got a safety after we threw an interception down on their 1-yard line. And the very next play, we got a safety. So that's a 6-point swing. 6-point swing on either a turnover with the safety and the 2 stopping them twice on their 2-point conversion. So I guess that's a special team. It's a 2-point play. So special teams was just huge. Certainly the weather was a factor in the game. It wasn't cold, but it kind of drizzled and rained really pretty much the entire game. So fortunately we caused 3 turnovers, and we had 1. We threw 1 interception, but we gained 3, so we were +2 on the turnover margin. So O and D were really probably pretty balanced as far as moving the ball, even though we did have more yards than them. But we couldn't quite punch in a couple touchdowns. So a tough ball game against Anna. That was a battle right there. And so looking forward to moving on this week. And so we play Hopewell Loudon, which is up near Tiffin, a little east of Findlay and near Tiffin. And so their league has like, I don't know, 15, 20, 25, maybe even 30 different teams in different divisions and things like that. But but they, we're all familiar with Archibald, and so they played Archibald a couple weeks ago in the playoffs, and they're in a league that comprises a whole bunch of teams up north. And so they come in at 12-1. They lost to Margaretta in a really close, tough ball game. They did play Edison, who we played a couple years ago, and they played Cary, who got us in the state finals a few years ago. And then, of course, like I said, they played Archibald a couple weeks ago in the playoffs. So they're coming in 12-1. A really physical team, with a pretty big, strong O&D lineman. They have one really good defensive lineman that we're concerned with. And so they play a pretty basic defense, a mixture of a 3-man front and a 4-man front, depending on who they're playing and what type of offense. But pretty vanilla as far as blitzes and things like that. So complete opposite of last week, where every play Anna was doing something, blitzing, twisting, all kinds of stunts and different coverages. So offensively, though, kind of interestingly, they play 3 different quarterbacks. The one quarterback has zero and actually negative rushing yards, but he's their main thrower. And then they have 2 other guys that play receiver or running back that also do some wildcat, and both of those guys are mainly runners and have both thrown a few passes, but not many, not more than, I don't think either one has more than 10 to 15 throws, but they're good runners. So they mix that up pretty well. Couple decent receivers. The quarterback who's a thrower has, I think, 1,600 yards, and so they beat Cary last week 35-0, and so they look pretty daggone good and physical team. I guess that's the concern is up front. How are we going to handle that those matchups with the O and the D line? So that game is in Wapak. At Wapak, we're the visiting team. Wapak has a really good stadium. So both sides are nice, and both sides have press boxes. And so it's a good situation. Really nice locker room for the kids, and so we're looking forward to the challenge with Hopewell Loudon. And so instead of the punt long snapping clinic, I guess, that I was going to do, I'll just talk about some of the 5 scout team linemen. Last week I mentioned more of the skill guys that have done a really good job. So the big guys that have really helped us, and there's been several, but these 5 kind of jumped out at me. So Eddie Obringer and Carson Deuce are 2 seniors. Carson is always a tight end, a scout team guy, and a defensive end. And Eddie Obringer is an offensive lineman and a defensive end for us. And Eddie's a senior, really good, great teammate along with Carson. And Eddie is always one of the defensive ends and offensive tackles for us as a scout team guy. A couple of juniors, Brad Wendell is probably maybe the biggest guy we got on the team. Maybe not the heaviest, but 6'3", 6'4", 250 pounds. He had never played football until his sophomore year, and so he's really raw, still is, and inexperienced, but he enjoys it. He's improved so much over these last 2 years, and hopefully next year maybe he can be a Friday night guy. I guess we'll see. So Brad always is just wherever we feel like he matches one of the other team's guys similar size-wise, we plug Brad in there. And Landon Unrast is a defensive end and an O-lineman for us, and several times we've made him like this defensive end is built like you, and he's quick and does a good job. And so Landon has done a really good job on both mainly on defense, but sometimes on offense. Scout team. And then the third guy, who now is actually a starter now, Carter Heitkamp, is actually our heaviest player. And Carter moved into a starting role last week at guard, But and he's our backup center. So probably next year, if we had to pick right now, he would be our center next year to take Rudy's spot. But he plays scout team center most of the time, and then helps on the D line when we need him. But now that he's a starting guard, we try to limit that scout team a little bit more. But so those 5 guys: Eddie O, Carson Dew seniors, Landon Unras and Brad Wendell juniors, and then Carter Heitkamp. I've all done a really good job with our scout team, along with lots of other guys. But those guys jumped out at me, and so. Like I said last week, that scout team is so important. So next week we'll talk about the long snapper, and hopefully we're talking about a state championship game going into that game. But this week you got to take care of business this week against Hopewell Loudon at Walpock, 7 o'clock this Friday. Bring your winter clothes.